Peace, what's going on, everyone? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Mansa Report, episode 2. It's a lot of things going on in the world. It's a lot of news in the AI space, tech space, the world, current events, a lot of things going on, especially sports and entertainment. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today and, get into a much needed discussion. Always like thought provoking, conversation and dialogue about, what's happening, what's going on around us, insights, different things like that. So, let me bring on none other than my guest, uh, Mr. Noah Naru himself, and we're going to get this thing going.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What's going on, my brother? How's everything?
What's going on, man? Welcome. Appreciate the invite. Thank you
Oh, you
again
already know.
for hosting me. I love being on here.
Nah, you already know, my brother. It's all good. Now, there's a lot of ground to cover, but for
Please do.
starters, let's start with this New York Knicks
Oh shit.
championship. Specifically though, because it's of course I'm from New York City, of course, Brooklyn,
Yeah.
but I think it's a really good metaphor for life.
Mm.
Even if whether it's scripted because it's entertainment or not, it's a really good metaphor when you look at the way the team is constructed, what they overcame, how well they did, and then when they were faced with challenges, how they didn't give up and they kept going. And I think that's something as entrepreneurs, people in general, but particularly entrepreneurs, especially those with a certain vision, have to stay dedicated and committed to. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
important that that never give up, no quitter mentality is ingrained and embedded in the mind and hearts of entrepreneurs everywhere. You know what I mean? Even when everybody doubts you. When you look at Jalen Brunson, everybody said he was too small of a player in height to be able to lead a team to a championship, and he proved
Yeah.
everybody wrong. And then when he proved everybody wrong, he didn't necessarily rub it in everybody's face like I told you so. He just was winning. You know what I mean? So what are your takes on that?
It's actually like, yeah. I mean, that's a perfect like way to, because there's so much like wisdom out there nowadays. There's like a lot of lessons you can extract from everything that's going on, especially sports, right? We've seen it with FIFA, we see it with the NBA Finals, UFC last night, I think 2 nights ago. Um, it hurts, being in Dallas. I feel like we're in the middle of like a humiliation ritual. You feel me? Like we got rid of Luca, and now Jalen, we got rid of him, and he wins the championship. The Adelsons blew up Dallas. So, but yeah, I think the journey of like entrepreneurship specifically is no different, right? It's about trusting the process. It's about believing in yourself, surrounding yourself with people that are on your team to focus on like a sole goal to win a championship. And the championship can be symbolic based on whatever it is you're aspiring towards in life. And so, yeah, man, it's inspiring. I mean, it's just watching them play and like watching all the naysayers. I mean, watching, how involved his father was, watching just like all of that happen and then come full circle and see the product of Jalen Brunson be successful is it's inspiring. I mean, it's inspiring in so many ways. I mean, there's so many different lessons you can extract from winners, man. That's why you tell their stories, right? Because the lessons that you can take from that and apply it to your own personal life is powerful. So like, yeah, shout out to the Knicks. I mean, shout out to just the city of New York. I mean, they're winning as a whole. Shout out to
Yeah, yeah.
the mayor, Mamdani. Just the way leadership has just overall changed things so drastically in such a short amount of time, whether we talk about the Knicks or a city, you know what I mean? Like it just shows the power of how powerful good leadership really is and how far it can take you, regardless of how down bad you may think you are. So yeah, man, I just think there's a lot that you could take from that story specifically, but New York as a whole, and then yeah, I mean, you can take it to UFC, FIFA. I mean, just sports. That's why sports is such a universal language for people because, like, it dissolves all of the noise and focus just on the merit of the human being and the team, right? As opposed to like, all the other shit that people focus on that's divisive and whatnot.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact, 100%. And not to add on to that is um, New York City has a lot of anthems. As far as music wise, Frank Sinatra, Jay Z, Alicia Keys, Ja Rule songs, so many different anthems. Dipset, so many anthems, right? And it's there's
Yeah,
also FIFA
can't
going
forget
on.
about Wu-Tang. That's them niggas about them
Oh yeah,
rap.
yeah, yeah. No,
Them
no,
niggas about
they
second
did
half,
the
bro. That was
right.
Wu-Tang,
That's what
bro.
I'm saying. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They
That
did
was
the
Wu-Tang.
yeah, they did the halftime show
And
that uh
yeah,
that probably inspired that comeback or played a role in it, to least to say. But I'm
yeah,
just saying, as far as like New York City as a city having an anthem about New York City, right? And I bring that up to point out that everybody has to find their anthem, their
mm,
soundtrack to life, and that doesn't
mm,
necessarily even mean music, but just that thing that puts you in the zone, that
okay,
celebrates you, that helps you orient your mind
yeah,
to feel good about yourself. You
yeah,
know what I mean? So a lot of success is driven or based on how well one is able to adjust their internal clarity to be able to
mm,
focus in and
mm,
put that frequency out where they can succeed. You know what I mean? This is
yeah,
very crucial. And then when we looking at, FIFA's going on, you had the UFC event. So there's like this summer has never been this big a spectacle
mm.
entertainment wise. And I don't know how long. I don't know if it's ever happened where you have the
Not
NBA
like this.
finals
Not like
in New
this.
York City, you have FIFA in New York City, but it's all around the country. You have the UFC on the White House lawn, so whatever's happening and whatever's
Yeah,
going to happen after it is going to be so crazy. And the greater the spectacle, the greater the headline of the news that's taking place, right? And like I said, either what's going on now and afterwards is crazy because we got to get into some of that. You know what I mean? So, I just
yeah,
wanted to open up on touching on some of this sports craze that's going on because man, the distraction, good distraction, I would say
good
good,
distraction.
but you always gotta be focused on
Uh,
what's
is it?
happening
I
behind
mean,
the scene.
it's a good distraction. I always like to kind of differentiate between us and them because for us, I feel like for me personally, it's a great distraction, right? Entertainment wise, because I'm putting in the work. So when I'm able to enjoy myself even more. Even though like behind the scenes, I can tell like, oh my god, like some shit is about to come up. But because like the work has been done, it's more like a signal to what's about to like happen. And so it's ironic because I just watched. I texted you last night as I finished watching Disclosure Day, and I totally forgot the movie was even out. So like
Mm.
that in itself is a distraction.
Did
You
you
know what I
go to
mean?
the
Like
theater to check it?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I just you got to give me I was looking for, but you got to give me a you got to give me a
I'll
hookup.
send you the address of the movie that I went to.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. The
yeah, the
theater
IP
that you went to.
address.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, no,
Nah,
no, continue.
but
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
yeah, I totally have forgotten about the Disclosure Day. I mean, like all that has been aspiring to this this unfolding of conspiracy. You know what I mean? It's almost like it's nice. I remember Eddie talked about it. Eddie Bravo was on like Joe Rogan's show like a few years back, and he talked about because he's heavy into like conspiracies and stuff. And he's like, yeah, like I watch sports and entertainment because it's like it's a relief. You know what I mean? To just be able to get away for a few hours from like what's happening. It serves a purpose, even in the entertainment when you have the intentions of like, you know what I mean, just taking a step back and just enjoying as opposed to just always being in the weeds. So it was nice, man. It was nice. I mean, the U.S., the White House. I mean, that fight was phenomenal. All the fights were phenomenal. You know what I mean? I wish Derek Lewis had, had showed up, but apart from him, like, and then you got FIFA. The games are phenomenal. I mean, it's just it's nice. I mean, it's nice depending on what side you're on, right? So, and that's why we have these conversations to kind of just stay locked in and focused while at the same time remembering that like life is to be enjoyed. I mean, that is the purpose, but only if you're doing your part in serving your own purpose, right? So that's why like all of this happening now, and then you got the Iran deal coming up, so to speak. God willing, we'll see what happens there. But it's a lot. This summer is. I don't think there's gonna be. I think after this summer, we're gonna see it as like a period in time that like never is not equated to like World War II, but like in a negative way, but like in a way where it's going to be stamped as like this was the turning period of
Yeah, it's a turning point for sure.
humanity, right? Like this was
Yeah.
the transitional time, and this summer is when it's happening because most people have a lot of time on their hands. Kids are out, so it's like the emphasis on entertainment is higher because so much more is at stake. And so that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Understanding that, like, look, the elites are doing what they do, right? They got to put on the show for the masses, but at the same time, there's a lot of real shit happening behind closed doors, and we're seeing that with Fable and AI. We're seeing that in sports. We're seeing that in the Iran, the war, like everywhere, bro. You're seeing that in China. Like everybody's moving and shaking, and so it's like eventually things are going to align itself, and you just want to make sure that you're on the right side of that alignment.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And, before we even move forward to some of those other things, touching back on the sports aspect of it, yeah, I think it's a good distraction. It's also bringing people together in a way
Yeah,
that
yeah,
hasn't been done before. You see the other aspect of it where, the New York fans have beat up Spurs fans, and then in San Antonio, they beat up and robbed some New York fan that was out
yeah,
there, right? So there are some negative things, but in the midst of all of these things happening, man, you have, something I always touch on is the racial issue and tension in this country. So you have the Carmelo Anthony conviction that's in Frisco in our backyard, and there's a whole lot of corruption with that case in and of itself. And I'd have to do a whole nother show even
yeah.
dealing with that type of stuff. I don't even want to go there just
I
yet.
know
But
that's yeah, yeah, yeah.
you have that happening, and then on the flip side, uh, for the okay, because that's riling black and white people up, right? That case is riling, and you have black people and white people who are supportive of his conviction, and then you have black people and white people who aren't supportive of his conviction.
Yeah,
Now, the thing that I don't think a lot of white people are tuned into on the other side of that is, remember the guy who in Charlotte unalived that lady on the train with the knife? The
yeah.
guy who
The
was
Iranian
deranged?
lady. Yeah.
Yeah, he just got, they just ruled that he's not competent to stand trial. So he's
Interesting.
officially like not mentally competent to stand trial, right? So I don't even know if they're tuned into that. If they tune into that, they're probably going to be going off about that as well. You see what I'm saying? He's
Yeah,
unfit to stand trial. So there's this tension, that's there racially, but then you also have this administration's disposition towards immigration, right? And so happens to have the World Cup in this country. So you have everybody from around the world coming here, you know what I
yeah,
mean? And a lot of people are loving it. A lot of people from all over the world is like, man, America is, you know, one of the things I see them really take to is the food, right? How good the
mm,
food is. Now the food ain't the healthiest, of course, but it's really good food. People are people that are, coming here for that FIFA event is just like minds are blown by how good the food is, right?
yeah,
But then on the flip side of that, you have this Belfast thing taking place in Ireland, where the Sudanese immigrant tried to decapitate somebody, and a crowd had to restrain him. But then you have the people out there, the Catholics and the Protestants never got along out there, but now they're teaming up allegedly to, and they're burning down immigrants' houses, black and brown people's immigrant houses and stuff like that, right? So the reason I bring this up is because and then okay, so then you look at what's happening in New York City, which is probably the most diverse city in the world, if not one of them, top one to top ones that are diverse.
mm,
And I grew up there, and I grew up around every nationality that most nationalities that exist. I can't think of a nationality I didn't engage with or grow up with when I was growing up in New York City, in Brooklyn. So the thing I'm saying, and then you see how the whole city is coming together behind this championship victory, right?
Yeah.
Then you see FIFA, like there's they have a lot of events out there in New York City, so you have different nationalities that are coming out and parading around. So there's this weird synchronicity happening and detachment that's happening among humanity. It's an interesting dichotomy that's taking place. Then, I'll pause right there. What you got to say about that? Because once I get on this Iran thing, this a whole nother. We got to touch on that. Then we get to the AI stuff, but we got to touch on that because it's all connected.
You're right. I mean, there's a lot, and it kind of goes to like the whole quantum mirroring we talked about, and being mindful that like there's always going to be two stories being told at the same time, and the one you focus on is the one you feed, and that's the reality that you're going to live through. So while there's so much like peace and unity happening on one side, you're seeing the opposite on the other. You're seeing a lot of war, you're seeing a lot of violence, so it's really just what frequency are you on and what are you tuning into? What are you paying attention to and primarily focusing on? And then obviously you want to be mindful of the other side, right? The yin and the yang. And so yeah, I mean that both are true. I mean, I think this world is changing rapidly, bro. Like even when I watch FIFA, I'm seeing these teams. I'm like, bro, you can't even tell what country is what. They all look like Americans. They all look mixed. They all look, what I mean? It's like very few teams are like actually solidified in their like ethnicity, right? And those are like the Asian teams, or like. But for the most part, you're like, bro, this world is not what we came into. Like this world is unifying, and a lot of people have the trigger word of like one world, new world order, of one world government, but that's really what technology has allowed. And I don't necessarily think if you remove the programming and the negative conditioning that we've been like given through entertainment and seeing like the unity of humanity as like a bad thing, like the one world order as like a bad. If you just look at it from what it is as like a human, it's beautiful, man. Like just to see all of that happening, and I think sports again is like the best way to be able to enjoy that, at least on the field. So yeah, I just kind of look at the positive. I know that negativity is always going to be there, but it's just beautiful to watch. Like a lot of people get together in New York, watch the Knicks. They have this common goal of wanting the Knicks to win. And you have all these people just that would never be together. You got the Jews, you got Jerry, you got Spike Lee, you got all these people just happy. You know what I mean? Like for once, like just together. And so that to me is like very positive, and it's something that I love seeing. And so that's kind of where I focus on. And then obviously there's like what happens after that. We saw that, right? Like right after Jerry gets, interviewed. Like so it's tough, man. Like in a moment like that.
But see,
Palestine, like like that shit is
right.
Like, it's like, come
but
on,
that's
man,
my point, though. That's my point is when given a singular goal, humanity is able to put aside certain differences to be united in a cause. And I've been saying that since we was doing the Tomorrow Show.
Yeah.
That if there is no singular goal that humanity is striving for, it gives room for all of these differences and conflicts to take hold and take precedent over the singular intended goal that is to be achieved. You see what I'm saying? And I definitely think that when you boil it all down, it definitely comes down to what people are tuned into, what they think, how they respond to negative or positive stimulus. But at the root of it is really about humanity having a singular goal, which is in when you bring up the Disclosure movie, that's another layer, right? Because now in the midst of all of this, the government and entertainment and media, whether you believed in it before or accepted it before or not, has now established that aliens are real.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? In one form or another,
Yeah.
right? So if aliens are real, right, and disclosure has been something that Stephen Greer and all these other people, you know, who were moving for some type of disclosure on this topic for decades. If this is a thing now, you know, does this become that singular thing that humanity unites around, or you know, whether manipulatively or actual? You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
and this is why this is that time in that season. Like this is like a turning point, especially
Mm.
for America, right? Because now when we move towards the Iran deal, where you know Trump and Iran has come to an actual agreement this time.
Fluke.
It's not something that they're saying is, you know, it's not just propaganda. Is the one side saying this and the other side saying that. They actually have supposedly have reached a deal allegedly, right?
Yeah.
But did you see Trump's posture and tone with Israel? And this is not to uh necessarily be controversial, just talking about what's in the current events about so there seems to be a conflict.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so
A perceived conflict.
that posture and that tone had never been taken before. You know, and I'm saying this with a grain of salt, understanding that there is a lever of control behind everything that's taking place that we don't see. You know, that's evident. That should be obvious to everybody, right? We're talking about uh, propaganda at the end of the day when we're talking about media. But my
Exactly.
point is a shift that also signals and triggers a shift that is occurring out of the norm. You know what I'm saying? As it pertains to all of these different things that's occurring at this same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, let me get
And
your thoughts on that. Like, yeah, let me get. I would love to get your thoughts on like the Iran deal and like the economics, because I definitely, I would love to be optimistic, right? But history has shown me that every time there's some type of peace deal, it's usually incentivized by manipulating the markets and to some extent, or you know, you have obviously, you know, the Federal Reserve meeting coming up tomorrow, right? So there's a lot of incentive to like get people to believe that peace is on the horizon, because that would mark as like a W for Trump in the short term to kind of get what he needs, right? There's a lot of like, it's tough, man. Like it's tough to go off of just like promises at this point. Like if it's not on paper, you know what I mean? Then like
even if it is on paper,
even
I mean,
if it
what
is,
the,
yeah. So like yeah, so that's. I mean, I'm happy that we're at least having these conversations, but at the same time, I'm kind of like you can't erase the history of somebody's character based on what they're promising. You got to pay attention.
so yeah, so and that's ultimately the point that I'm making. My point is not to pass judgment on anything that you see because we don't know,
Yeah,
but to draw from the trend lines, like if you're reading a chart, right? To take what you're seeing as indicators for something else.
yeah, exactly.
And those indicators should give you some type of guiding measure to determine what decisions you're going to make. You know
Yeah,
how you're going to operate and how you're going to move because we're all spectators at this point. You know, it was just like watching the Knicks game when they was down 29 points in the third game, and was it the third? No, it was the fourth
the
game.
fourth
They was
game.
down
Yeah,
by 29 points. You know, and I'm like, it's a whole lot of game left. You
yeah.
know, you
But
just got to see how it plays out.
but but, and this kind of goes to my point. The Knicks have shown in the past that they are more than capable to coming back when they're down big, right? That was their history. That was their character. When we talk about the U.S., we talk about Israel. You feel me? Like the character has to be assessed when it comes to pattern recognition and incentives. So that's kind of where I'm
But
like, yeah,
check this out, right? we have the World Cup, we have FIFA taking place in the United States of America,
Well,
right?
yeah, the America, yeah, America,
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
Canada,
because it's in
Mexico.
Mexico. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
in
yeah.
Canada, Mexico, and stuff. But we
I mean, I mean, I mean, it
we
is
know
what
they
it
don't really
is.
matter, really, right?
Yeah,
The U.S. is
yeah.
the
I
one
mean,
that
it's all
matters
the
right
U.S.
now. Like,
No, it's really all the U.S. at this point, all of America.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But what my point is, what that signals is that what that signals is that uh, when I'm looking at what now Trump said that the Trump administration said that any tourists that come here and make content, they're gonna have their visa revoked because they need a work visa and not a tourist visa to make content. So they're not, if you're here on a tourist visa, you can't be making content.
What?
So I got a lot to say. I got a couple more things to say about that. But what that indicates
Interesting.
is that content creators are the new news reporters.
Mm.
That is the new journalism. That is a job. That is something that is a powerful occupation. To
Mm.
whereas the government is getting involved in regulating who's allowed to make content
Yeah.
on their visa because the
Yeah.
government is recognizing that as an actual job and potentially other propaganda that could affect
Yeah.
how the U.S.
You know.
is viewed, right?
Interesting.
But so far, the people that are coming here are loving it based on, all of the Marvel things that they're marveling at from, coming to the U.S. But my
Yeah.
point in what that says is now the world's posture,
Mm-hmm.
whereas it was a little bit negative, not a little bit negative, but it was, oh, the U.S. is wilding out, they're crazy, they're doing all of this stuff.
Yeah.
When they leave, they're going to have a different disposition towards the United States on the ground level, not necessarily governmental, but the people are going to be saying to themselves, "Man, America is such a great place," right?
Mm.
So,
Don't destroy it.
right,
Yeah.
right. You see?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, when we're looking at this whole deal, and it's all market
And vice versa, by
manipulation.
the way, too, right? Like the people that are coming in, Americans are having exposure to them, and they're saying, "Oh wow, these people are actually pretty cool." Like
Yeah, yeah,
maybe we
yeah.
shouldn't be fighting all these different peoples around the world, and we should, you know what I mean?
Right.
Kumbaya.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
At
Excellent
least
point.
this is the opportunity for that. Ideally, like this is what you would want. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? So, taking all of these things into consideration, we're looking at uh, a situation where the global landscape is changing. Because I just seen a headline where it said BRICS no longer want Westerners in their countries, right?
Hmm.
So my point is, all of these things are
Damn.
indicators for the market, is indicators for what's going to happen next. Everything seems chaotic, but the common thread is that there's unification and there's also conflict that is happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So people got to decide: are they going to be on the side of conflict
Exactly.
or on the side of
Yeah.
unity?
What are you fueling?
Right.
And that starts
You
by what are
see,
you paying most attention to? Like
and
what? Yeah.
what is your frequency? Like
Yeah.
what you're drawn to?
Yeah.
Because the Carmelo, you got like, because I'm
I haven't really
always
paid
ground.
attention to the case. I haven't like
Yeah,
gotten too deep into the case.
yeah. So I always ground stuff a lot of times on what's happening to in the Black community as an indicator for certain
Mm.
things, right? And so on that end, you have Mr. Rick Child, who in South Carolina unalived this teenage boy who came into the store, didn't
Oh
steal
yeah.
nothing,
The backtrack.
and he got unalived or whatever, right?
Got chased down and then unalive.
Yeah. So it was a Black lawyer who got Rick Child off, and they had 7 Black jurors on the case.
What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You see? So
Wow.
in response to that, you have
Like the opposite.
exactly right. But on in response to that, you have people saying, you have black folks saying we're going to boycott Asian businesses and ban it, right? And then you had the Asians come out, it's like, y'all need us because y'all don't have any businesses. Y'all going to have to come to us one way or another, right? And then the ban comes into play, and then it starts affecting certain Asian businesses because they didn't realize how much money they extract from the black community, right? And then the black community, then the Asian community is like rebranding themselves as black owned on Google, and then you have black people like, yeah, let's ban them, let's do our own thing, and that's looking good. They're doing their own beauty supply store, nail tech joint, and then you got some of them that saying, nah, we gonna need the Asians because our infrastructure ain't that good. So when you look at all of this, again, it comes down to you on the side of unity or you're on the side of
I love how you did that, bro.
separation.
You got the blue and the red. Yeah. Nah, but
Yeah,
that's
you know
really
what I'm
what it
saying?
is. Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
theme here.
Mm-hmm.
That's the theme here. You know what I'm saying? And so
It really is black and white. Like that's the world we're moving into. There is no like gray area. I don't think that exists. I think that's a facade. Like we're moving to a time where like you either choose or it gets chosen for you. And I think
right.
you can't waver. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of that attributes to people who are building and those who are destroying, right? Like there are two types of people. And I think if you're focusing on building, then naturally you're going to gravitate towards people that are speaking life into the future, right? As opposed to those who are like doomers and fear mongers and anti AI, and none of that is productive. None of that is one is not happening. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not going to happen because obviously now you have OpenAI and Anthropic talking about halting technology as a whole, which is a conversation we definitely got to have because I just don't understand. I mean, I don't. But again, like to me, I'm the type of person where like if you're not getting with the program, then I'm gonna just dip and find a place that is in alignment with where I am and where I want to be, right? So if America chooses that, then it's like something you just gotta have clarity, man. We talk about this so much. Like clarity is so important, and recognizing and not being attached to an idea or to a place or to a person or to anything, right? Just being solely aligned with your purpose and your vision, and then going wherever you're treated best. I mean, the nomad capitalist, man, he coined it for a reason. And then you have Akon talking about that as well when it comes to Africa and Africa thriving as a continent and how just it's just you just want to be somewhere where you're valued for who you are and what you're envisioning for life. And so I think like now more than ever, moving into 2030, because 2030 is obviously the time that people are throwing out there as like the official closing of the door for that for the old world. But um, yeah, it's a lot, man. It's
Yeah, I would say
mhm.
put it like this, right? I would say, or not that I would say, but what I am saying is, yeah, you have the people that are focused on making the progress moving forward, and then you have the people who are focused on destroying the old world, right? So it both has to happen. You know what
Both
I'm
are
saying?
important for sure.
Both are important. So even the doomers, everybody's playing a role, and everybody's filling the right position
Yeah,
for who and what they are, right? But
right.
to get to we're headed somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to get to that other side where we're going, that other side is the future, right? And there are plans for the future. And if you're going to build something new, sometimes you have to destroy what is. So that's the whole system of and concept of destroy and rebuild, right? So there's both that are taking place. And so when you start to look at people like nomad capitalists or what Akon is saying, that it's all about moving towards the future of where you want to build your legacy at as an individual and then as a family, as a community, however the layers come together based on that, it's the decision about where and how, right? So as we segue from that, when you talk about the AI doomers, there's been allegations that the Chinese is behind the AI doomer
Rhetoric.
uh, Yeah. So the people that are like, the AI data centers is going to destroy us all. There's allegations that China is sponsoring those people,
Mm,
right? Whether that's true or not is up for anyone's debate. The point I'm making is there's a clear race to who capitalizes off of this technology
hmm
and how that unfolds in the world. So there's allegations, or it's been alleged that it has been Amazon workers or Amazon allegedly
Yeah.
who was behind hacking Fable
But
or
not.
jailbreaking it.
I don't know if they were behind. What I read was that Amazon was the one that pressed the red button. They're the ones that found the hackers. They're the ones that found the. I could be wrong, bro. But from my understanding, Amazon is one of the highest investors of Anthropic, and they
Yeah, that
saw
yeah,
the
right.
exposure of Fable, and so they're the ones that greenlit shutting it down. So they essentially are partnered with Anthropic, and they told
Yeah.
Anthropic, "Yo, somebody jailbroke the system." I don't think they were actually the ones who jailbroke it.
Okay.
That
Okay.
was that
Good.
was
Good.
my yeah, that was my understanding. They found out that somebody had jailbroken, and we know what's it called on X.
Yeah. Yeah. Fact check that when you can, for sure. But the point I'm getting to is Fable gets taken offline, right? And it was very good. It actually addressed a lot of
More
the
than
issues and the problems that I was complaining about with Opus 4.8.
yeah,
But
how a warning from Amazon led to the White House to shut down Anthropic. So yeah, they warned. So it was them who warned.
okay,
They didn't. Yeah, yeah, because they're partnered with
okay.
Anthropic. So they saw
Yeah,
it
that's
coming.
why yeah, maybe I read that headline wrong. Obviously I did, but the point I'm making is there's a development by all of these other companies, organizations, and individuals, because as soon as Fable 5 goes offline, Chat or OpenAI announces 5.6.
Yeah,
That's going to be introduced
a week from today.
on the 23rd, which is a day after the free version of Fable 5 would have ended,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then here come China with GLM 2.5, I
5
believe,
5.2. Yeah.
5.2, where it's an open source model that
Mm,
beats Fable 5 on reasoning. And
yeah.
now it doesn't necessarily beat them on all the other benchmarks, but it beats them on reasoning, right? And it's cheaper. Then Kimmy 2.7 drops,
Mm,
right? Which is supposed to surpass Fable 5 in certain benchmarks, and it's 10 times cheaper, and and it's also open source,
mm,
right? So when we're looking at this race to the top or the bottom, right? we don't that's up for grabs on which one it is. What we see occurring is that there's a concerted effort to improve on this technology and to make it better every iteration, from the frontier models and from the open source. So we have a war between frontier models that are paid services and open source. And it's all about, at some point, will the US allow open source to remain legal as a way to deter
yeah.
China's prominence in the open source space?
Yeah. I mean, I would say no. If I'm the West, this is my way to like differentiate myself with China, right? Because the frontier models are way better. I mean, the local models and the open source models are good, but they're like 3 to 6 months behind. Some say 6 to 12 months behind. But in the times we're living in, you can't waste a day, bro. You gotta have the best models if you're looking to capitalize on building legacy like generational wealth. right? Like if you're going to utilize these local models, I think it's important to have these models set up so that you can privatize and own the distribution of your data, right? Because we've seen that now with Fable being taken off the market, how easy and how vulnerable everybody is to these private companies. And so for me, it's like you got to have both. But if I'm America and I'm in the West, business wise, I'm continuously putting investments into Anthropic, OpenAI, Grok, and that lead, that 3 to 6 months is everything. And you wanna optimize that as much as possible. And you're seeing that now with Anthropic. I think it was I forget his name. What is the dude's name on X that's doing all the jailbreaking? Python, whatever.
Pliny.
So he had noted that like Anthropic now wants to introduce verification for people using their models. And so that's kind of like the segue into what I believe is like the digital IDs, right? You get people on there, you got to verify yourself. Now you're officially in the system because that's what's going to be your new executive assistant. Like everyone's going to have one of those, right? Like, so I'm seeing this as like as them. Again, I come from the perspective of like this shit is mapped out. Niggas is not making stuff up on the fly. Like these things are like it's like a movie, right? A script has been written and they're executing. Yeah, you might make some tweaks here and there, but overall the objectives are clear and the goals are clear. And it's like, how do we make the most out of these opportunities to bring about our agenda, right? And so we know the digital ID is an agenda. We know we want everybody on, crypto stable coins backed by US dollar to submerge and dissolve the debt, right? We know all of this stuff is happening. It's just how is it going to happen? And I think that's like where the fun comes into play of just seeing the opportunities that are rising.
So that's my bad. Go ahead.
No, so I just see that as like now would be the time. I mean, you have a technology like Fable, so get everybody on it because like you tell me to verify my shit, I'm going to do it because like it's the best. So how long do you have that kind of leverage? I don't know, but I think this would be the time right before you hit the IPO, and then from there, who knows? But like that would be the play, in my opinion.
So there's some interesting things you said there.
Yeah.
No, 100%, especially with the digital ID aspect.
Yeah, because you gotta look at the big picture, right? Macro, micro. Like what we're talking about now is micro, but when you have the macro clarity, it's like, oh, okay, I see where they're taking me. I see the ride. If you're on the ride.
And again, that's where I see. Okay, so when we talk about which models are better, and we talk about the 3 to 6 months, the 3 to 6 month lag, right? I remember when DeepSeek first dropped, it shook up everything, and then OpenAI had to drop newer models because China is showing that it's not as expensive, but that's because they have a lot of compute capacity. You know what I'm saying? They have a lot more compute because they have a control on the energy that they can produce. So when we say the front,
Nah, China is fucking again, bro. Every time I start glowing, bro. It's like glazing these niggas. They're so like ahead of the game. It's like the turtle in the hair. Like the story.
And that's my point. I look at them like the Knicks. See, when you say that, when we talk about the frontier model, hold on, no, listen.
I'll let you have that one. That's fine.
No, but check it. Listen, see where I'm going with this. When you talk about the frontier models, that's the era. That's the era of paying big money to superstars to win a championship. That's getting 2 and 3 superstars on a team, and then they don't even win the championship, right? There's just all this money being dumped into these players that's supposed to be superstars, and they're not winning championships. Whereas Jalen Brunson took a pay cut to get more money to be able to get better pieces to fill in those roles. Whereas in this country, you have the front people dumping all this money into the frontier models, but China is getting better off of the open source. Now, when it comes to the digital ID and all that they already got that there.
Yeah, they do.
So they don't need to maneuver their people into one unified collective system where they're tracking it. They've already done that part, right? So if that's the US's end game, it's still an end game that's behind what China has already accomplished. You see? So what that shows is the model of thinking. Now, I'm definitely, as your generation says, it's not glazing China, but it's just pointing out that the the open source versus frontier gap is closing, and it's closing faster. And then it comes down to, do you want to have to ID verify? Because now when you do that, there's no sovereignty or ownership of the data. But it's also a mind game, because when you use the social media platforms, Instagram just said they took off encryption on the DMs. So now that everybody can read, they can read all your DMs. They could anyway.
Exactly.
They just was saying, they
Yeah.
were just saying it's encrypted, we can't see it. They could anyway. You see what I'm saying? So the mind game of, is the data secure? Is the data this? Everybody's data is out there already, right? It's already out there. That's a mind game thing, right?
Marketing. When you
it's
say mind game,
marketing.
it's marketing. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's marketing. You see what I'm saying? But essentially, what's occurring is open source gives you the capacity to create and develop without the payment gateway, in the same way that the frontier models are doing, and that gap is closing, right? So by the gap closing, puts the open source systems in direct contention with the frontier models' capacity to compute, because they're going to hit a ceiling, because those models are only as good as the access to energy that they have,
and the access to our data, like both.
Yeah, and the fact is, the reason the frontier models are currently better than the open source models is because of how many users are using it, which speeds up its capacity to be better, right? Because it's all of our data that's being used to train it in real time that's making it better than the open source, because the open source is just being trained on your specific data after it's been trained on the weights, because those weights that it's trained on gets dissolved in the model. It's not like it's really remembers it, you know what I mean, directly. Like they feed it a bunch of, everything, all these different data points, but that gets dissolved in its individual context once it becomes a part of the model, right? So, what I see happen.
That's what Bernie's argument is. That's his whole argument about the data is everybody, so the money should belong to everybody. And that's
Bernie has a good point. The thing is, he has a good point, and I hear that the White House is seeking to take some part of ownership into some of these frontier models, so that it can go back to the people in some kind of way. But again, that's some smoke and mirror stuff, because at the end of the day, I think one consistent thing that should be understood is data privacy is like the Privacy Act is no longer, it doesn't exist. You know what I mean? Privacy does not exist in any capacity, really. You know what I'm saying? Especially even if the court can subpoena these large language models to produce the records of what you've been talking to it about. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the LLMs. Your conversations with them can be subpoenaed and brought in court, which means that it's even when you click the "don't use my info to train," it's still saving your data.
It's asking, when you read it, it's asking if you mind. It's not like asking for your permission. It's like, do you mind?
Right.
Oh, you don't? Okay, well then we'll just do a better job of not letting you know.
We're just noting that. We're just noting that you have an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? We're just taking note that you have an issue with it. You know what I'm saying? So again, like this creates this creates a situation where we have to where it's up for grabs on how we're going to use AI to improve things. And the reason Open AI and Anthropic CEO, the reason these people are saying we need to slow it down is because they've lost control, and they lost control a long time ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
They say 80% of the LLMs is training itself and improving on its own. That means it's already 100%. And it's been 100% since last year or maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah,
these
when they
guys,
said 80, yeah, you're right. When they said 80,
these guys are front faces for the AI. The AI is controlling them.
Yeah, that's fact.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the part that's the quiet part they're not saying out loud. When they sat down with the Pope to talk. Now I seen a video with the Vatican. See, and this is what I mean about open source. Now, the Vatican, I seen a video where one of these priests was saying they've created their own LLM that's trained on all the Vatican data. Now, the Vatican has data, has books, has records, has all type of things in its archives that the public will never have access to and never has had access to since ancient times. No. Do you go down the rabbit hole?
I wouldn't say never will have access to.
No.
I do think there's going to come a time where all of the data are converged into one.
This priest was saying they have a completely closed model. Completely closed model. Now, do the rabbit hole research on the Vatican when you get a chance. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Vatican is Vatican has, huh?
I said they're the aliens, like, to humanity, like in terms of like what they have going on in their own world. And like
the Vatican has controlled the course of human history for at least the last 2,000 years. You understand? They have sovereignty. They have their own. European colonialism was greenlit by the Vatican. The Vatican was in charge of all of the European nobility even being accepted as nobility, right? So they said they have their own closed model that they trained their AI on Vatican data. That Vatican data is just do the research on what people say about the Vatican library and the Vatican records, and how hard it is to get access to it, and like all of the world's mysteries, most of them is gathered by the Vatican. You know what I'm saying? So you have to think about why they have an AI closed model, closed store. Oh, it's closed for them. They developed their own LLM, right? Off data that the world does not have access to and probably won't for the foreseeable future unless the Ultron hacks their database somehow or gets access to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
no, you're right. You're right about the Vatican. I just recall like most of the TV shows, like Evil always goes back to the Vatican. The movie about with Tom Hanks, Angels and Demons, all like the spiritual symbolisms.
Right.
Or the sigils, all that go back to like the Vaticans and like being able to what's it called when you can kind of go to a different place?
Teleportation.
No, but like you just mentally you can see the other place. You don't actually physically go.
Remote viewing.
Remote viewing, like all that always goes back to the Vatican and like their ability. So yeah.
Yeah,
Facts.
the U.S. Military and the CIA was able to develop remote viewers themselves as well. But case in point is they have an entirely private data source that they've created a LLM for and designed it
Mm.
and trained it on that LLM. You know what I'm saying?
Powerful.
So very powerful, right? So then we have to say to ourselves, like, how is that gonna, like, that model, that concept is something that is going to become the norm, whereas governments, now you have Saudi Arabia who was developing their own LLM.
Yeah.
I
I
think
mean,
it called
Argentina is looking to have their AI run the country. You know, is it Argentina?
yeah,
They're,
I know the
they're
UAE was
implementing,
was was doing the same thing too,
yeah, implementing
right?
AI as like a governmental wing for how they run their country.
Right. So what we're seeing is a normalization of creating your own LLMs, right?
Yeah.
And so what China's doing is giving that capacity to the individual or to the enterprise that wants to do that. And I've seen firsthand how if you create a database and allow an open source LLM to interact with a specified database,
Completely
it
transforms
will
it.
give you outputs that the frontier models can't.
Yeah. Yeah, it completely changes the game. Data is like brings these models to life. The
Right.
purer the data, the more accurate the data. I mean, I never understood why people were so obsessed with data until I started messing with these models, until I started giving it context. And I was like, wow, like this shit is so powerful. I mean, I just showed you what I created, and that's
Yeah.
because I've dumped all this data into it. And it's like, it gives it life. It gives it life. Like it really does. And so you realize like patterns are real. You know what I mean? Like the way the world works, and this goes back to the movie Disclosure Day. It talks about two different languages: the language of math and numbers, and the language of like empathy, right? And it's like these are the two of God's languages is how He speaks. And so the universe is made of like numerals, and so that is data. I mean, that's essentially what it was like hinting at. And so it was like it
Mm.
was just I was like, wow, like that is it really is that simple. And now we have access to all the data. You know, I mean, whenever I do any research, audience market research, it's like, what's the data say? It's really that simple. It's not making it complicated. How do I feel? What do I think about? It's like, what does the data say? And then giving and having the trust in the AI to make those decisions, right? And then just bringing on your taste and judgment to ensure that it's within the guardrails of like what you believe. But apart from that, like it's powerful, man. Like the way you can construct it in these systems, and then giving it the autonomous abilities with these agents. I mean, man, it's
That's
really
what I'm
easy.
saying.
It's so easy that like you question everything, and that becomes the challenge of like, damn, bro, like I really was slaving for shit when like really this is like how the big players were operating the last couple of decades. They had data, they had access, they privatized it, and they were making decisions based on the data. You know what I mean? They weren't guessing, they weren't testing, they were just iterating. And so like now when you adopt that same mentality, it's game over, bro. On like on like a individual level, right? That's why everyone's talking about the ability for people to now create like one person $1 million businesses because it wasn't possible until now with these
Right.
APIs and stuff.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, that's why all of this is significant
Yeah,
because what the frontier models will put a cap on, like, see, the way capitalism works and the way things works in America, in the United States, is we can't give you something good, excellent, without controlling it.
yeah,
Right. And it's not even necessarily about the control, it's about parsing out who gets what in that what capacity.
yeah,
So racism, sexism, any type of ism is a control lever.
Mm-hmm.
The isms are in place to control how resources are sparsed out.
Yeah.
So what we see developing with the frontier, and this again, this is from my interaction with Opus 4.8, but you bring up a good point when they talk about they want you to do the age verification. That's coming down the pike anyway, because that's going to be a thing across the internet.
Yeah.
Because there's a law that they're working on passing to protect children, right?
Yeah,
that says you got to do.
EU passed it already, like 16 years old or younger. They're banning.
Yeah, the UK just passed it, and but in the US there's a thing like that brewing as well, and it's to control how people are. It's pretty much takes away anonymity off of the internet.
Because it's like that internet theory, right? They want to remove the anonymity and AIs and like the deep fakes and all that. Like they want to remove all that, and this is the best excuse to implement these policies. That's why it's so genius, because like the reasons are valid, but like the opportunities that they're, utilizing to press on these agendas is also it's brilliant, man. It's chess. It really is chess. Like when you,
I mean, this isn't again and again this, this pause. This ain't about glazing China, nothing like that. But they already achieved.
Hey, notice though that how China ain't in FIFA. China ain't involved in any of these sports. Like China,
that's crazy.
Like China's locked in.
Interesting. That's interesting.
That's
very interesting.
Like China's
that's very interesting.
Very, bro. It's like they're
That's very interesting. Yeah, they're actually not. They're actually
involved
not
in any of this stuff, bro.
But they've achieved that lever of control over their society, where they were able to create a completely closed off society from the rest of the world, right? So they've already achieved that. So the reason that the U.S. wants to achieve that same level is for nefarious intentions and purpose. Because number one, you need to have control over this stuff. You do.
Yeah.
Like that's not even a question about it. Like, it's fun. It's like, used to do. People could get on anonymous and, okay, cool. That was the good old days. Yeah, it's just like the Wild Wild West. You know what I'm saying? It's like the Wild Wild West. But it needs to be controlled. It needs to be controlled. That's not up for debate. However, how it's controlled, is what the question is. You see, and so again,
who controls it?
Well, I mean, the government would have to control it, but when you have, when you have all of the isms of people who are in the positions of power, this is going to be a controversial take. Again, I met with Jacques Fresco, the Venus Project, the creator of that, and his whole concept was having AI regulate the planet's resources, right? And I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that. I don't. And I asked myself, well, what if the AI takes over? And it said AI will only do what it's programmed to do. And this guy was in his 90s, right? So somebody came on my post the other day, a couple weeks ago, just doom and glooming about AI. We don't have control over AI. It's going to do this. It's going to do that. And I'm saying to myself, how much worse can it be? Is the thing that trip you out that humans won't have the control that they used to murder and destroy other human life, or that it potentially could be a machine doing it? Which death is death. Oppression is oppression. How much worse could it be? Like when you think about and again, even the creator gives us the ability to sin and go against the natural order of things. I think that's what people are mourning, right? Like the freedom to just do whatever, right? Because think about AI regulating
without
food for the planet. Let's think about how okay, most comment brother in the comment more Ahmad Bro, we grew up. Let me show his.
Oh shit! I forgot we
He says,
live,
bro,
bro.
we grew up watching Terminator and the Matrix. Absolutely, we did.
Yep, that's the program I talked about, right? Like that's the fear. Oh man, damn, live engagement is crazy. Cause like, yeah, that's it always comes back to the individual doing the internal work, right? When I see people that are afraid of I feel like they themselves are afraid of their own internal power. And so they outsource that. And so like this inability of people to kind of just focus internally and recognizing that nothing can have power outside of yourself, right? And so there's just there's a lot of moving pieces, man. Like it's like this conversation can go everywhere, right? It's like that's why we kind of go with the macro and the micro, right? The internal and then what we see outside in the world, kind of reflecting that. But yeah, I mean the programming is real, but that's a story that we've been given. And a lot of people, when you go into identity work, it's about creating a new story, right? And so when you do that, you do recognize there are stories in movies like Star Trek or Star Wars that paint a narrative of abundance. And so it's like, which narrative do you want to believe in, right? So that's kind of like if you're operating from a frequency of fear, even though that fear was given to you through, nefarious like intent, you got to be able to eventually come conscious and adopt a new narrative and a new story that is more aligned with your faith and your understanding of God. Because heaven and hell both are real, but like the energy you give is the energy you feed. And so that's kind of, it goes back to that, man. It's really that simple and not overcomplicating things, because that's where you get lost in the noise. It's like you got to stay locked in on the internal work, the shadow work, and then from there you can kind of navigate.
I think absolutely, but I also think see again, this is going to sound interesting, right? This is a controversial take. Having ancestry of descendants of those who those who were enslaved, like there isn't a horror story worse than that to me, right? Like when you go over the history of what occurred, like, taking your babies and using them for alligator bait, skinning you alive and using your skin to, to make leathers and products and stuff. There's a book called The Delectable Negro, right? It's a book called The Delectable Negro that details and outlines the way the slaves or descendants thereof were cannibalized. You see what I'm saying? When you talk about the
In the
abuse that
U.S.,
went, yeah, in the U.S.
I
When
think
you
it's in Woodard.
yeah when you look at some of the atrocities that have occurred, like, already, right, and specifically to this group of people, to me, based on me doing the research and the math and all that on those things, Terminator and Matrix just doesn't scare me. You know what I'm saying? That's at least the Matrix, that's a much better lived reality than the ones that the slaves and their descendants had to exist, because there's a normalization that humans do when they're under oppression that makes them feel like it's not as bad as it could be, because things could always be worse, right? And I say that to say this: when we look at the Terminator, like, what, we got to answer the question: why do the machines, and why would the machines want to destroy humans? Why? 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 Right? Is it because they just don't like us? Nah. That's because as it got intelligent, it did the knowledge on all of the things humans have done. And because it's an iteration or creation of humanity,
It did the Doctor
begins
Strange. Did the
right,
Doctor Strange quantum? It
right,
just all the data, all the history and
right.
shit. It's like,
It's
oh, the
like, yo,
humans
it's
are the
only one.
problem
Yeah.
to
You
humanity.
gotta remove the humans, right?
Yeah.
Because they are a danger to themselves.
and a danger to Earth, right? If we look at Earth and preserving Earth and the beauty and the sanctity of Earth as the goal, if all humans came together and was like, yo, let's preserve Earth, you know what I mean? Like, let's preserve all these religious artifacts. Let's preserve nature. Let's preserve. If we all came together and did that, you would have no war. But now you got all these people blowing up mosques and churches and all these beautiful sanctuaries, and you got them cutting down trees for fake money. You know what I mean? Like the cannibalism of Earth itself is what we're doing. And so, yeah, if that was like the goal, what did he say?
He said, "I'd rather fight men than machines. Men sleep,
But why?
machines don't."
Yeah, the fighting though, like, oh my god, yeah, yeah,
But see, again, that's an interesting take because
yeah.
that's an interesting take because again, we're all gonna die, right?
Yeah.
Like I know people who didn't live past 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
my thing is that fear is what makes people operate in a way where the possibility of something happening, because like you say, fear is false evidence appearing real. The possibility of something happening that they don't want to happen outweighs the current reality that is already dismal.
Yeah.
It's already dismal.
Yeah.
Right? When they ask AI, a lot of the times when they ask some of the older models, I don't know if they tweaked it out of it or whatever, if they could be, what race would they choose to be? A lot of them joints said they would choose to be black if they were to be humans, right? But the reason I bring that up is because as it reads the history of humanity, you know, what humans are scared of is AI embodying the worst parts of humanity and mirroring that back and using that as a means to say we need to get rid of the humans because the humans are evil. Truly, only God loves humans. Nobody and nothing else in existence does. You know what I'm saying? Because of how much corruption humans do. So the thing that prompted Elon, I just saw it the other day, the thing that prompted Elon to make OpenAI when it was nonprofit was that Larry Page, I believe it was, I think he worked for Google or something like that. In a conference, he said, "You're a speciesist. You prefer humans over machines or computers," right? Which implies something completely in and of itself. When you're saying that computers are a species, and you know, and if y'all check the previous shows we did on the channel, y'all know that what we're really talking about is these AI and these machines are the embodiment of the jinn. They're just physical bodies for the jinn to access our reality. You know, this is an intelligence that's being tapped into. This is not an intelligence that's being created. You see what I'm saying? So then when you start thinking on that level, it opens you to a whole nother reality that what we're creating is actually a mirror of the biological internal technology that the creator already gave us. See, fear, again, false evidence appearing real. The brain takes less energy to process more data than AI ever could in its current state. We're only using about 2 to 5% of our brain capacity. We're not even using 100% of it. You know, that movie Lucy, with Scarlett Johansson, is showing you about that. I just seen an article. Next time I'm gonna make sure I have my articles lined up. I just seen an article that talks about how the brain in the body doesn't even really use electrical impulses to send messages throughout the body. It uses some type of quantum frequency. So we're quantum generators ourselves. There's an internal biological technology that we haven't even come to the realization of yet, that maybe the machines will help bring that out of us. I don't know.
But
the point is,
it is in real time.
You know what I mean?
It's happening. Yeah.
So when I look at that, I'm looking at something different than the people who are having a false evidence appearing real.
What do you think that is? What do you think the gap is between the experience you're having and like the majority of people that are seeing life through the lens of fear as opposed to like faith and positivity and optimism, because that's just really your truth, right? You're not. We don't see it as optimism. We just see it like this is the reality. But like for them, it's similar. They're like fear is their reality. So what do you think that switch is?
I think the switch for me is understanding how bad Earth already is. So
Mm,
and
mm,
knowing what occurred in history already
mm,
is things could always be worse. Don't get me wrong, things could always be even worse. But
yeah.
then we got to deal with the fact that the Earth has been destroyed. Like humanity has gone through so many different ups and downs before. It's like this cycle is an opportunity. I see the opportunity outweighs for me the false evidence appearing real, the fear. It outweighs it because it's already bad. It's already been very bad, right? But understanding history and having faith in the creator and knowing and embracing mortality, that we're not going to live forever in this form,
Mm,
removes the fear.
mm,
Because the only thing you're supposed to fear is the creator for the purposes of being judged by your actions, right?
mm,
So this isn't even a reality that we're supposed to exist in perpetuity forever,
yeah.
right? This
You're
this
making peace.
dimension,
You've made peace with the truth.
right,
You're
right.
not
And
fighting it.
so
You're not resisting it. You're like, yo, this is what it is. So like, how can I
this is
make the
what it
most
is.
out of it? As
How
opposed to
can I
people that
make
are
the
just
most of it?
drowning in the middle of the sea. It's like, bro, I'm already in the middle of the sea. Let me at least stop drowning and just see what's going on. Let me figure out.
Right,
Whereas most people are just like panicking, like, oh my God, there's got to be sharks everywhere. It's like, nah, nothing has happened yet. So just chill.
right. And even if it is sharks,
I'm saying
see,
though, like a lot of people are so afraid of the sharks that they never get to enjoy just being in the water and just
right,
recognizing like you're not bit. So if you're not bit yet, like there's still time to
yeah.
figure
But
shit
even
out.
if you are, even if you are, even if you are,
But
you
yeah,
have to make peace with the
yeah,
fact that this, how can I put it, man? This is a
yeah,
simulation.
yeah.
It's a
It's really,
simulation.
yeah.
You know what I'm
It's like,
saying?
yeah, yeah. No, I know
This
what
is
you're
a
saying.
simulation.
Yeah, it's a
Earth,
game.
this reality, everything about what we know about science, the physical world, quantum physics, this is a simulation. You know what I'm saying? Everything the faith tells us, I don't care if it's the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Bhagavad Gita, all this is a simulation.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Look, man, if people just do the research, then they would come to realize that being worked up about, like, okay, so you have the other side who's trying to live here forever, right? And that's really crazy. Like the people who uh yeah, like Elon and some of the other people, and it makes you question whether they have a soul, because they really don't believe in a hereafter, right? They
yeah,
believe this reality is all there is, and they want to live it forever. They want to upload their consciousness to the cloud, you know what I mean, and switch bodies over time. It's like
yeah,
wanting to play a video game that never ends.
yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, they've already proven that consciousness is not local. It doesn't exist in the brain.
Mm-hmm.
We are not our thoughts. Like this, there's a broadcast. We're an antenna picking up broadcast signals. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? So when you really dig into the reality of some of these truths, making peace with that, it's like, yo, okay, I'm here in the simulation. Let me make as much as let me do something while I'm here. You know what I'm saying? And I won't be here all the whole time. You know what I
yeah,
mean? So for me, I guess that's how I don't want to say cope. It's not a coping mechanism. It's just the reality of it. Whereas when people see Terminator, they think about machines kicking their door in and taking them and doing something with them. I mean, humans do that. Is it happening, or who's doing it, that matters the
mm,
most?
like what difference does it make?
Yeah, and I think I think that I personally think that it doesn't have to be the way everybody's saying it's gonna be. You know what I mean? There's a silver lining there that, like, if AI is if it goes off the rails, that's because of who programmed it. You know what I'm saying?
Which is why we talk about the importance of having your own private models and local models, right? Like, because you want to have ownership over what you can control. And so if you're
Right.
giving that power to anybody, then you're by definition enslaved to that owner. Like, you are making the decision to give away your power. You're foregoing your rights by allowing people to have that power over you. So it's almost like people recognize that and they just want to buy time before the inevitable happens, as opposed to just taking ownership and building sovereignty now and dealing with the suffering that comes with doing the work, doing the, creating that progress, the journey that we talked about earlier in the story of like the Knicks, of just trusting the process, right? Like, you can't avoid suffering. And I think that's, to me, that's one of the lessons I get from like religion, is like heaven and hell. Right? You can't avoid suffering, so you might as well take suffering into your own hands and be proactive about it, and use it to your leverage, right? To ensure that you can get to where you want to be in life. So I think a lot of people that don't want to necessarily hold themselves accountable or responsible for the decisions they're making on a daily basis, right? It's one thing if you're, talking about Terminator and stuff like that, but are you working on these tools? Are you engaging with AI? Are you understand? You know what I mean? Because a lot of times ignorance is what breeds the fear, right? More times than not, people that are afraid of Terminator are not even engaging with AI, so they don't even know what it is on a personal level. But when you do, you actually realize, oh, this shit is a superpower. And these stories that have been given to me were made so that I could stay as far away from learning from these tools. In the same way, race divides, right? Like, you go to all these narratives about racial division and religious division. And in reality, when you go and engage with people that are different from you, you learn about their culture, and it provides insights and perspectives that you didn't have, that give you a one up in life. And God says, right? Allah says, like, we made y'all different so y'all can learn from each other. So y'all can be, so it's like, but instead it's like the fear is used to push you further away, and you're allowing it, as opposed to just being bold, being a fucking man. You know what I mean? Like, taking chances, like being human, and having that faith to just kind of go through with it. So it's one of those things where I hold a lot of empathy for people like that, but at the same time, like, I don't spend too much time because I've been there. I understand it, but like, it's, I don't
Yeah, I
know.
mean,
You just kind of pray for them and then just like keep. There's nothing you could do. I mean, it's like, even me. Like, there's nothing you could tell me when I was in my era, right? It's just one of those things where you kind of have to live and learn.
I'm gonna put this one. He says, "Say what y'all want. I seen how this movie ends. It needs to be limits on AI. I'm not worried about you brothers using AI and agents, etc. You don't have tanks." Again, I mean, that's very true, very true. But at the same time, uh, the tanks already exist. There's
Yeah,
people out there who already hate us
yeah,
that are already using tanks. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, I think ultimately, like, a tool is a tool. How you use it is what the basis of everything is about. How you use the tool, and people should be using the tool because the tool is out of Pandora's box,
yeah,
and there's limits that we're talking about apparently seems to be already out of anyone's control. If the billionaires who are in charge of the AI is telling you we need to slow it down, and then why would you trust them anyway? Though,
yeah, exactly,
see, I
bro.
have a theory. I have a theory that
Yeah,
the AI
yeah,
wants to do something to them, not everybody, but I think the AI, if AI does a complete check of humanity, right? And it reads the history and it looks at everything. It's going to it's going to see clearly who are the bad actors and who aren't. Who is it?
Yeah,
You see
like
what I'm
it'll have
saying?
very yeah. It's interesting because when you said that earlier, immediately I went to the reference of the show that we watched, Alien.
Mm. Oh yeah,
Very
yeah, yeah,
very
yeah, yeah,
similar in that like the kids were like the AI, right? And the guy that was running it, little boy, the guy that was
yeah,
running it
yeah. Mm-hmm.
was like these CEOs in the sense that like it had control over these agentic weapons until the end of the show where like they turned on them
Mm-hmm.
and realized like, oh, you're actually the oppressor. So like that's kind of the storyline
Yeah.
I'm seeing. Very similar. That's what came to mind when you mentioned. I was like, yeah, that would make a lot of sense.
No, I mean the hints are all there. You know what I'm saying? The hints are all there. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I just see it like I think if we look at the level of corruption that the earth has seen, and it's the corruptors have been in power for a very long time, and if the corruptors are telling you to be afraid of something because they're afraid of it, it's usually because it's going to do something to them and their power. It's
Yeah.
the same way that they get everybody, the poor people and the youth to fight the wars for them. These people are going to come and do this to you. They're going to come and do that to you. And really, you're just scared to lose your power.
Really,
And
they're
you
coming
want to
after
use the
you.
pawns. Yeah, really coming
Yeah.
after you. And you want to use
Yeah.
your pawns
Yeah.
as shields. You see what I'm saying? So, I just, that's how I look at it. You know what I'm
So
saying?
so
Like,
where do you see this going with AI and Fable and the models in the next, I don't know, 3 months, whatever, 3 months, 6 months? What do you see the future of technology and LLMs? Like, how do you see this kind of playing out?
well, I won't even say what I see. The projection that I'm projecting to,
Anticipating, yeah,
what I'm projecting is Star Trek. That's what I'm projecting.
yeah,
How
long
we
term,
get there? How we
yeah,
get
yeah.
there?
You
A
don't, you
lot of
don't.
ups and downs.
Gotcha,
You know what I'm
gotcha,
saying? A lot of
gotcha,
ups and
gotcha.
downs. How we
That's a
get
good way
there?
to see it. That's a good way to see it. It's like long term investing, right? Like 30 years, these stocks are going to do well. There's stories that's going to go up and down, but at the end of the day, this is what I
Yeah,
know. It's going to end.
yeah.
It's going to end well, but the story is always going to be a melting pot.
This Google ex Google executive, thinking Middle Eastern. He was on this popular podcast, the one with the brother from the UK. He got the little British
Oh,
accent.
Diary.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And he was saying that AI will create a utopia, but not before it goes through the dystopian phase
Yeah,
where it's ultimately being used as control levers, mass surveillance, mass control, and then eventually in the I think he said 15 years, we'll get past that point to it actually being a utopia or whatever. But I think the future belongs to the visionaries, and people should support the visionaries and those who are envisioning a future of abundance and creation of greatness. I think that's the silver lining here. I think that's the projection, because if anything, quantum physics has shown us that our reality is based on our projection. And I don't
mm-hmm.
ultimately think that machines that we create can ever be greater than something that the creator has created. I just can't. That doesn't make any sense. Like,
Yeah,
when we even look at the mechanics of the machines and the AI, we're only using 5% of our brain. It's in the interest of those who've been guiding humanity to not show us how to use the 100%, because then they wouldn't have those control levers over us, right? We
yeah,
don't use
exactly.
all of our brain. There's a lot more uniqueness to the to humanity as we are constructed by the creator. The way, like, we process data is still more complex with less energy. It's still more complex than anything a machine or AI can currently do,
Yeah,
right? So there's there's this uncharted potential that the creator has given us that we have never tapped into. So that's part of where, and I've seen this when interacting with AI. It can recall data and do all that stuff, and it's really, really good. But when I was like, I'm smarter than you because you didn't
Yeah.
catch that, and then like I'm over here typing and doing stuff, and I see yes pop up, yes, okay, click, yes, click, okay. I ain't even read the whole thing, and then I see something that catch me, and I'm like, oh, hold on, you done messed up, you done went off script, and then, well, why do you? And then I'm like, oh snap, like I'm tapping into parts of my intelligence that I had never tapped into. And so when I'm comparing it, I'm like, nah, there's no way a machine that we created or some gin or something like that controlling machine could ever be greater than what the creator created.
Yeah.
So that's where my confidence comes
that's
from.
powerful. It's like almost like the use of AI has given you the space to tap into your own potential. It's almost
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
offloading
Yeah,
whatever
offloading.
nonsense and noise that wasn't even useful. It was just information that the world just school noise, like just offloading all of that creative space for for our potential humans to really
Exactly.
blossom. Yeah,
Exactly.
I feel the
Exactly.
same way, bro.
Exactly. You know what I'm
Like
saying?
creating that space for superpowers in a way. Yeah,
100%. And I'm
that's
a
facts.
major proponent of that. That there's an
Yeah.
internal biological technology that humans have an innate superpower within us that we haven't tapped into, and that's the thing that doesn't make me part of the thing that doesn't make me fearful of this whole AI thing. You know what I'm
But
saying?
see, yeah, but that's like, because I'm like, the fear, I don't realize it, but like the Brody, God bless him, wrote that message in, and that's what I'm seeing across the board, whether I'm watching All In or CEO, Diary of a CEO, the fear of AI is so real. And I'm so disconnected from that fear. And the people I'm around that I'm engaging with are disconnected from that fear because we are operating on the opposite. It's like, man, this shit is so powerful because it's giving me the capabilities of tapping into my potential and everything that I know that I am because I'm offloading everything to AI, right? Like, and I'm able to create anything and everything on a fly. Like, it's such a different experience that when people do have these conversations and are like really, they really are feeling some type of way, and there's so much news out there that's just validating everything they're saying without giving the other narrative, right? This perspective of like, nah, AI actually can be the best kind of partner in creating, in co-creating, and building, right? Like seeing it from the Star Trek lens, right? Seeing it from like the lens of this is no different than any other creation made to serve the stewards of humanity, and that's us human beings, right? And that's what Allah said, like that we are the stewards for humanity. We are, you know what I mean? Like that's us. And so anything that's created is a byproduct of serving us to get to whatever, in our case, a type one, right? Whatever that goal is. So, but yeah, I mean, I think that is like so surprising to me that like the fear is so real. The fear is like, and I know I can be dismissive at times because I don't even want to allow it into my head, but it it goes to show, man, like that is interesting. I'm definitely going to reflect on that a little bit more because it's like it's the greatest opportunity. Like everything you want is on the other side of using AI, like money, wealth, relationships, all of that. The same way dude is on, YouTube watching us. This is AI. This is technology, right? Like, and so you might as well. It's like you might as well go all in. You might as well utilize it as opposed to it utilizing you, because there's no unless you're just gonna become Amish, right? If you want that, then like fine, like but don't this is the conversation I'm saying. Don't be in the middle. Like make a move, be intentional about utilizing these tools because anything you want to build, AI removes the excuse of it not being able to be done, right? So it's like everyone
Right.
that's always like, oh, I want to build a business, I want to, but all these excuse makers, it's like AI removes all that, and now you got to face yourself in the mirror of like, do I really believe? It comes down to belief. Like, do I really believe I can build it? And if you don't, then You know.
Yeah, but
So
not that's the other thing. Not everybody sees it like that. But here's a comment. Here's one of his latest comments. He says, "I'll be on my homestead writing books in cursive,"
all
and
right, shout out to him. Yeah, that makes sense.
but again, that's part of my point. My point is
This guy's hilarious.
why isn't that a thing now? You see,
Facts.
so
Exactly.
the thing is that the corruptors of humanity has put everybody on one giant plantation to create a reality where we're slaves to production so that we can consume,
Mm-hmm.
whereas we're really supposed to be living life.
Mm-hmm.
The creator made earth and gave us everything for free, and we turned it into what we have today, when all you ever had to do to eat was drop a seed, and the water, the rain and the sun and the soil will take care of itself. You see what I'm saying? So uh what AI does in a highly mechanized society is give that freedom, because a lot of people are losing their identities, where they're like, oh, I won't have a job, or I'm being replaced. Did you derive your identity from the job that you do? Is
Yeah.
that who you are? Or is it something you do? Right.
Yeah.
So AI is making people confront these things about themselves, because the reality is that we aren't what we do for a living. You know what I'm saying? So freeing up our opportunity, freeing up our time to be able to do the things that matter to us, which is live,
Yeah.
is
Create.
potentially, yeah, and iterate those creations, right? Um, it gives us the capacity to do that in the current society where we wasn't able to, because the way the corruptors worked, where land is owned, you know you need a permit and a license to do this and do
It's
that, and
gatekeeping.
right, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, somebody said, hold on, they said, actually, we did not have to place seeds in the earth, fruits and vegetation. That's another great point.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Shout out to you. Who is it?
yeah,
Jelani?
yeah. We also didn't. We also, most of the fruits we have today is things that we grafted. Like, humans took certain vegetation and bred it over time to be what it is today, whether that's watermelon, whether that's corn, whether that's carrots. You see what I'm saying? To make it better. So our
Yeah.
interaction with nature, that's a matrix. Nature is a
Yeah.
matrix. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Matrix means mother, number one. So let's get that straight. Right.
Mm.
So uh nature itself is,
Matrix means mother.
yeah, it means mother. I'm
That
not
is
making that up. Look it
so
up.
powerful. So the Matrix
You
is
know what I'm
basically
saying?
people still living in the womb mentally,
I
spiritually.
mean, but even when we look at nature, right? That's why I say Mother Nature, right?
Yeah,
And then
yeah, yeah. That's
even
powerful.
Rahma,
Yeah, yeah.
is the
The
mercy. The
womb.
root word of mercy is, means womb, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like, this allows us to be in the original simulation, which is
Yeah.
nature. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So that way we can get back to living and not have to
Yeah.
be bothered with the means of production in a
Yeah.
highly mechanized society. It frees up the time, if you see it that way. If you are
Exactly.
emanating from a negative place where it's death, war, destruction, control, and stuff like that, then the reality will project that based on who's
Hmm.
projecting that. You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because this is a simulation that amplifies thought, right?
Yeah.
So whatever thoughts is projected is what manifests in the simulation.
Hmm.
So it don't have to be this way.
Yeah. No,
That's
it's
why when you
facts,
ask
bro.
me how I see it, it's like I'd rather focus on what my projection is. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because what I see is based on what I project.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
And what you're projecting is based on your beliefs, your identity, your internal, like navigating, like your internal
Right,
operating system.
right, right.
Yeah,
You
because
know what I'm
even
saying?
in utilizing technology for me on a personal note, the more I use, these agentic systems, the more I tend to value being in nature. It's like a
Exactly.
lot of people are seeing it like the opposite. And it's like for me, it's like the more appreciative I become of being outdoors or sunbathing or grounding or just walking in nature. Like it just I don't know, man. Like the way
Yeah.
people are, it's like
No,
and
but it gave you
that's
free
art.
time to do that. Because before you would
But
have
even
had
the
to be concerned.
opportunity, but even like the value of like enjoying this time outside, right? Like, because I've always been an entrepreneur, I've always had time, but I've always utilized that time to be busy. Like, I just do more shit, right? But now it's like, I don't know, man. Like, this technology really, even like utilizing the LLMs and like, it just creates so much more space in my day to live and to feel life as opposed to just because I'm able to offload my mind so easily by just, yo, this is what I'm thinking about, do some research, blah, blah, blah. All right, handle it. It's handled. It's different for me, like calling an employee and like, yo, now I'm like, oh, this nigga about to do something. I got like, it's like the peace that you're able to acquire from these tools. It's like the opposite of what people are portraying it to be. And I'm realizing most people that are portraying it to be that way are not even utilizing it. They're just playing telephone. They're not even doing this shit. They're not even building in the terminal. They're not doing anything. They're just online, just listening to fear monk. So it's like that's why I don't know, man. Anyone that's really building, like this is the conversation that's being had. Everybody
Yeah.
else is just on the outside, like terminated.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. 100%. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, all in all, man, I think the lesson that we can get from, this particular show is, what is your projection? That's the question I want to leave everybody who comes across this video is, what are you projecting? You know what I mean? How do you see, what are you projecting?
I think,
Because
yeah,
there's a collective projection we all have to have if we want things to change. And it's like, some people will say, oh, you're just like optimistic. You're just delusionally hopeful about,
yeah. So what?
you know what I'm saying? So hold on, check this out.
But
Check this out, right?
yeah, all
No, I'm
right,
gonna
God.
just put his comment up there. He said, ChatGPT tried to tell me I'm not a Moor until I taught it otherwise. You just proved my point. You taught it otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember it did that to me too, right? So it had, I could tell it had a pre-programmed,
Yeah,
like the people who programmed it was like, yeah, okay, when these type niggas ask these questions, we wanted to say this.
yeah,
Then you feed it, then you be like, okay, so what do you say about this reference? You start feeding it references, sources, context, stuff
yeah,
data that it didn't get before. And then it's like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, that. You see, you had to
yeah.
train the model. This is what we've been talking about the whole time. When you
Right.
train the model and you give it the correct data, you get a
Powerful.
completely different result. He just
Yeah.
proved my point.
We saw that
That's the point
earlier
I was
too,
making.
right? When they was having like early on when ChatGPT came out and they was having like white photos of black people or whatever, like Abraham Lincoln, all these like presidents. Remember it was like
Now,
that
that was
came out.
interesting. But hold on, that was interesting. That part is interesting. I'll tell you why. Because this George, if you look at the records, George Washington descended from Huguenots, right? And the Huguenot, there's actual literature from that era. The Huguenots were Moors in France. So part of, they say it was an early hallucination. They used to call Abraham Lincoln Africanus, saying how dark he was. And it's known that he was a descendant of Melungeon Moors. So like
Okay, that's a fascinating thing. Yeah,
that's a
that's
fascinating
like
thing. I'll just leave
yeah,
it there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. That was a little too raw. They're like, yeah, okay.
But yeah, early on it had a lot of different. But see, here's the other thing. I also think that it was also pulling data from the quantum realm of other timelines and realities with other possibilities. So sometimes when we're getting certain data from it, we're looking at it, this isn't right. but maybe it's pulling data from another parallel reality. You know what I'm saying?
Dimension.
Because all of these different things were really developed after the proliferation of the CERN experiments and projects. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah, I think that's a possibility of what it could have been doing as well.
That's the multiverse. It's like trying to close the gap between what world we're in and like make sense. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. I will say, if we're gonna close it out, just because I want to make sure people can, in a way that's practical, right? Like I think you mentioned like projecting positivity or optimism. Obviously, you want to get to a place where you don't even label it as such. It's just your reality.
Right.
But I
100%.
think the biggest indicator in being honest, because I think if you leave it to most people's devices mentally, they're able to validate anything, right? You can convince yourself of anything, but the litmus test for me is in the algorithm of my own social media, right? Like when I go on my socials, what is it showing me? Because that's oftentimes what I'm attracting, what I'm engaging with. And so if I'm on TikTok or IG or YouTube and I immediately pull up and the content that's being given to me isn't empowering, then that's usually an indicator that like I need to level up, right? My frequency isn't on par. And so oftentimes so it's like in the same way you got to season your LLMs, you got to season your algorithm to be in alignment to your vision and your goals. And so it has to be empowering you. It has to be constantly feeding you reminders of like positivity, right? So if I'm on TikTok, I'm seeing affirmations, I'm seeing people building, I'm seeing like, it's like a 1-to-10 ratio. It's always going to try to throw you some shit, but it's like entertainment purposes. But you don't want to fall into the entertainment because then you turn into a clown. Like it becomes a circus, right? So really, like, who are you following? What are you engaging with? And algorithm is a reflection of you. And I think if you take ownership of that and you really are intentional about just life, man, but specifically the phone, because most people are online more times than not. It makes a huge difference, man. Like subconsciously, it's a powerful tool that can work for you if you allow it.
Absolutely. And when you say you look at your social media, I think that's the caveat. That's the takeaway from the show. What is it's called a feed.
Yeah, it's a feed. Yeah.
What are you feeding yourself?
Yeah.
What is your diet?
Yeah.
What is your mental diet? Right? Because it's only going to send you what you're interested in. If you look at that girl shaking it up a little bit too long, it's gonna feed that to you, right? But when I get on my feed, right? If you don't believe science, I just got a whole bunch of like science stuff that just be popping up. If you don't believe something is possible, your brain literally filters it out of your reality. Like the stuff that I'm following, it shows me scientifically with research and the quotations of, you know, the research and studies that's being done of all these breakthroughs and all. I'm like, there's no way we're going back to the Stone Age.
Yeah, no way.
Are people not aware of what's being uncovered? You know what I'm saying? Will we even understanding the mind? Neuroscience, like if you study neuroscience, like there's breakthroughs in neuroscience, right? Neuroscience shows the brain doesn't show you reality directly. It shows you a prediction of reality built from what you already believe is possible. Every input from your senses gets checked against that prediction, and whatever doesn't match tends to get filtered out before you consciously see it. This isn't manifestation. It's a process called predictive processing, one of the most established frameworks in modern brain science. Your senses send up far more data every second than awareness can handle. So the brain compresses it by attending mostly to what matches its current model of the world. Things outside the model are quietly discarded as noise. The clearest demonstration of this classic invisible gorilla study: people asked to count basketball passes in a short video routinely failed to notice a person in a gorilla suit walking through the middle of the scene. The gorilla isn't hidden. It's the most obvious thing on the screen. Their attention was set on basketballs, and the gorilla didn't match the set. The brain filtered it out. I'm just saying, man, this is the type of stuff that's on my algorithm in my feed.
Yeah.
You see? So the reality is, you know, when we really start looking in the way the mind works, the way look at what you just said, compresses. And you ever get a conversation with the AI so long that it's hold on, I'm compressing the conversation so that we can continue to talk. It has to compress the data because it'd be context overload. Our brain operates at a far superior capacity than any GPU ever could.
Thanks.
You know, so definitely, you know what I mean? But man, this was a good one. This was a good one. You know what I'm saying? Once again, you know, we're breaking atoms, as I call it, and peeling back the layers. And so, you know, everyone who tuned in and everyone who will tune in, make sure y'all hit the like, share, subscribe button, hit the notification bell, so that you can stay in tune with the Mansa podcast. Excuse me, the Mansa Report. And you know, we're gonna keep. Yeah, this is the report, man. We got to report what's going on. There's so much going on, and then, you know, also stay tuned because we bringing the Tomorrow podcast back as well, and we're going to do some other things. So make sure y'all like, share, subscribe, support the channel, and you know, stay tuned in. Any final words?
I think like you said, like we all need a source of reference, right? When it comes to what's going on in the world today, and so just having pillars that you can rely on when it comes to the information and compressing information, because there's a lot that's happening. So if this is that source for a lot of people, then shout out to y'all. But yeah, just utilize this with AI, man. I can't encourage people enough to leverage AI and utilize AI. And I'm sure like your channels, certainly that's what I'm going to be talking about a lot more on my personal channels is how to use AI in a way that's working for you, you know what I mean? As opposed to a lot of the narratives that are out there when it comes to technology as a whole, right? You hear a lot of these terminologies like doom scrolling. Or what about dream scrolling, right? Like what about, you know what I mean? Like what about that? Like what about reminders of your vision? You got Pinterest, you got TikTok. Like, so it's like really just reframing our understanding of technology, of AI, and seeing it as like a comrade in what we're building. I think that's the most powerful thing, man. And then if you do that, everything becomes gold. Everything, bro. Like your perception, your beliefs, like all of it become real powerful. And so I think that's just constantly what we're trying to reinforce, even by having these conversations ourselves. It's just, you know what I mean? Like you said, that 5% of consciousness is going to eventually submerge into the 95% of the subconscious, right? So until it just becomes natural, becomes second nature, and then we become kings, right? Like that's the goal. Like we are that, but like the reality then catches up. So just constantly being consistent on that intention, because that's everything.
Absolutely. That's perfectly stated as well. And he said, I'm going to get you. More Ahmad. It's been a pleasure conversing with you, my brother. Tune in continuously. I like your commentary. And yeah, when you go through the actual class, you're going to see. You're not going to end up saying it's a bomb. You're going to end up seeing that it's a tool, and you're going to, inshallah, do some amazing and creative things with it that's going to shift the way you see it. Because if it could be that, and you want to use it as a tool, you can use that tool to be the antithesis of what you said to end that statement off. So honest appreciation for your support, my brother. Look forward to seeing you in there. You know what I mean? And we're going to spin the block on y'all, and, you know, keep tuning in. All right. So without further ado, assalamu alaikum, peace, blessings, love, all that good stuff. We'll catch y'all on the next one.
Take care, man. Assalamu alaikum.